All the sounds, all the music that I produce, I create, and it's for us. It's not just for Uyghurs. Yes, I am a Uyghur, but I want to say like we are together. We are together means it's not only the Uyghur people are together. All the human being we are together. We're living and we're staying in the same moment right now together.
This is Uyghur Stories. Stories from the Uyghur Diaspora. Hello, John.
Hey, Mukaddas, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Great. I'm so excited. This is our first real, full episode of Uyghur Stories. It's really exciting to be here with you, and I can't wait to see what kind of stories you want to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm so excited and a little bit stressed as well, I should admit, because this is our first episode and I really want our stories to shine, you know. But for the first episode, I think I want to talk about, this kind of feeling of being in between spaces, being in between time, being in between cultures. That's the idea that I had in mind coming to this episode. I wanted to share some stories around this.
That sounds great. When just even you just saying that, sort of being in between, I feel like that idea connects really strongly to the idea of people living in a diaspora because people obviously feel a connection to their homeland, the place they come from, but also are very much in a different place and they feel very connected to that place also. But there's this strong feeling of being in between those two places and living in between two different kinds of lifestyle. Is that part of the Uyghur diaspora experience, do you think?
That's exactly the Uyghur diaspora experience because people still have so much attachment and also so much emotion towards the homeland, towards the Uyghur region, but they're physically living in outside world. They're living in different places, different countries, like foreign lands. So they still want to keep that memory, but at the same time, they need to be in their physical space. So it is a quite kind of strange, but at the same time, really interesting state of mind, I would say, and especially for artists, like how someone creative can explore that kind of in betweenness. And what are you creating if you're an Uyghur artist being outside of the homeland? That means if you're an Uyghur artist living in Europe or in United States, where you start and how you process your all creative, creative work, how you bring a creative work to this world, being in between many things.
Yeah, and I can see how you'd feel, in addition to being in between two places or your homeland and where you're currently living, a lot of artists feel like they are in between traditions or in between styles, right? That they maybe were trained or grew up in a very classical style, whether that's painting or music or whatever, and now want to operate and create in a much more contemporary way. So they're feeling in between those worlds as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you were talking about the traditional way of making art because today the first artist that I want to introduce to you and I want to share his story about is someone like that. He was grew up in a traditional world, but eventually he changed his world so many times, and then he's like traveling through all this different world. So let's get to know him.
Let's meet him.
Thank you for having me. And I'm also glad to join this program. And my name is Hassan. My father's name is Mahmud. I'm from Urumqi, and now I live in Barcelona, Spain. I'm technically Spanish right now.
um, yeah, I remember one of our very first conversation is how you actually how you were born into music, right? How you grew up as a musician playing music with basically music masters from Urumqi.
Um, it starts from like long time ago, like from my childhood, and I start to learn traditional instruments, which is chang in Uyghur. It's called chang.
Hmm.
And I start Uyghur traditional music first when I was young, and I perform like around 10 years. Like when I was like a child, and I don't play guitar or I don't play other stuff. I only play chang, and I play dub, and I sing all Uyghur songs.
You were invited, you were dragged into marriages or like weddings, and you were telling me that you were playing music with one of the tambur player.
Yes, when I was young, my chang teacher, he's like a professional musician, and yes, when I was young, I most of the time I spent with all the masters, like timbre player, chang player, dub player, all of the famous like Uyghur legends.
Okay, I'm very interested in the name that you used for one of your rock band, because we also really love that name and we choose that name for our podcast, Uyghur, which, as you told me, from We Are Together. Could you please explain how you came to that name and what was that name for? And yeah.
When I created the Uyghur, it was like in 2003. I was pretty young, and I was living in Shanghai, and the life is very tough there, lots of challenging. And I see the big cities, different place, and I see the international stage, and I see the international musician, and I meet up with a lot of people there. And I was young. I was performing in the small club. It's called Tanghui, and I was mostly in that time. I was playing like Spanish music, flamencos, and also some of like our Uyghur music, and I was performing there. And in the meantime, also there's a lots of bands, a lots of Chinese bands, and lots of foreigner musicians from all around the world. And I was just curious, and actually, it's like I met two very good musicians. They're both from France. We met in one jam session. Actually, it was like I never forget that moment. Anyway, even now they're the best drummer and best bass player still in Shanghai. They are the top one too. And somehow, and these two guys also have a very good feeling with me. And we went to stage just one time, but in that moment, I never played electronic guitar before in my life. And but that and that night, I took the electronic guitar. I closed my eyes. I said, "Okay, as a Uyghur, I want to show what attitude I have. I want to be crazy on the stage. I want to be like other like the people from 60s 70s. I research all Jimi Hendrix or Jim Morrison, all kind of people like David Bowie. Okay, I said, you know what, if you want to be artist, you have to show it. You have to open yourself. And that night I performed 40 minutes with these two incredible musicians, and I don't know why. I mean, I closed my eyes after 30 minutes and I opened my eyes. Everyone get crazy. Everyone just get crazy. And the drummer and bass player just come right to me and they looking at my eyes. Man, do you feel me? I said, yes, I feel. They said we should make a band. And directly in that moment, I said, okay, we're going to create a band. This band name is Uyghur. And for the name of the band, the first name I chose actually Uyghur, not Uyghur. I directly call
Hmm.
myself Uyghur because I just want to show the world like, hey, there's a Uyghur people that exist and they can play rock too. And then after a while I changed the name to Uyghur because and I believe that you understand, if I have the Uyghur that name in China, maybe it will be problem for me in the end. So
Okay.
I use my brain and I ask some of the old Uyghur professors and I ask them, what does the Uyghur means? Like Uyghur, that name, what is the meaning of the Uyghur? And they explained me Uyghur means we are together, biz birlikte in Uyghur. And I said, perfect. So, and every year in America or all around the world, the people creating new words, new English words. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, because I have to put this also as well. In my music life, whatever I perform, whatever I create, whatever I think for the music, first my idea is I play music for all the life, and we are together. So the Uyghur and my idea is so matched. So boom, I picked the name for Uyghur. Uyghur stands for we are together.
It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful name and it's so simple and it sounds really similar to Uyghur actually. Uyghur. And the meaning behind it is
Uh-huh.
beautiful. And also, as you're explaining, that it is also a kind of born out of your meeting with other musicians in Shanghai and you're also recognizing that actually by music, through music, we are all together and we are all human beings.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Okay. My band name's called Uyghur.
I just want to clarify for people who do not speak Uyghur the point he's making. He named his band Uyghur, like the name of the people.
Okay, but then he realized that that was a really political statement, or at least it was a political statement in the eyes of the Chinese government and didn't want problems for that. Is that right? So he changed it to Uyghur, which is derived from we are together and sounds like Uyghur.
Exactly. And I think this new word that he made up, Uyghur, is really beautiful. And so when we start this podcast, I asked Hassan if we could use it. And he said, yes.
Got it. Okay. So that helps me as a non-Uyghur speaker understand this part of your conversation a little bit better. And so Hassan, who was classically trained and then moved to Shanghai and discovered rock music, is now a blossoming rock god himself.
Yeah, you could say that.
And in 2009, there was a global battle of the band. And I signed with Uyghur, with my band. In that competition, I won the competition in Shanghai. I won one Gibson guitar. And my reputation directly, boom, up. And then my next challenge is all the foreigner musicians from all around the world. And I use my rock attitude as a Uyghur, like also the Uyghur attitude. And I work like 5 years more. And I became a Sun Rock in Shanghai. Like people respect me. And I know a lot of people and I have a lot of connections. And I see, okay, boom. Right now I have to do something. And that's why, and I create a rock family. I bring all the musicians together and I organize a lot of events. And actually I did one event that everyone says not possible to do it, but I did. I bring more than 200 artists together from all around the world and I made a big art mix party. It's like a small festival and I did very good success. And also in the first day I sold out all the tickets and it became the big event of the week. And also all the news, all the magazines, they're talking about my events. And after that events, and I start getting a lot of problems. Because when I create this band, when I create this rock family, I'm just like, I don't know, I forgot the Chinese government. And most of the time I use this rock. And what is rock? Rock is free, right? We're all equal. And I started talking on the stage. Rock music is about sharing, caring. We have to do it together. And I say a lot of stuff that the Chinese government don't really like it. And the time passed and I went to Urumqi. And also in Urumqi, I organized like almost like 20 different shows just to try to bring the people together. It's the same as Rock Family. Just to lead the young people like there's something that you can do. And I did my best, all what I can in Xinjiang, also in Shanghai. And after, like, I get some news from one of my friends, some friends who work for the government. They just tell me that it's time for me to leave. and and then that's why I left China and I moved to Spain, and now I'm Spanish. And even I moved to Spain, and the first 4 months I also did the Rock Family Art Mix in Sevilla. I also help, like, I bring 20 young bands. I give them opportunity to perform in the stage the first time in their life. And I am, as a Uyghur, I am the guy coming to Spain and doing this show and give them this opportunity to perform on the professional stage.
You're not just a musician, an artist, but you're also a bridge. You're bringing people together.
Thank you. We are Uyghur. Thank you.
So, in the sense, your newest album, Dinner for Seven. So, what people should learn from this album?
Okay, after I moved to Spain in Europe, and not just only Europe, and right now, like all around the world, people love electronic music. As long as there's a music, it's, for me, is a music. For the electronic music, I mean, even in Shanghai, when I play rock music, when I play other styles, I always play electronic music at home in my home studio. And I have all my gears and I have study, because electronic music is also one part of the music. That's something that we cannot explain on the guitar. We cannot make that sounds from other instruments. Electronic music, that gives you more opportunity to explain, like, what do you want to explain. For the Dinner for Seven, because all around the world, all the young generation now, they love electronic music, and right now it's like, yes, people join the electronic music. And what I did for this Dinner for Seven, and just like what I can, what I have, and I work with one incredible musician from Galicia. His name is Marcos. We met in Barcelona and we jammed for like 2 or 3 times, and we both have a very good feeling, and we decide to go to the Galicia, to the Atlantic Ocean, and we stay there like 1 month, just like, and we made album.
So, what is future for you then? So, we talked about the past. You just released your album. What is next step? What is your creative intuition bringing you, like attracting you towards? Where are you going?
Okay, if you ask me where I'm going, I love this question, because where are we from is not that important. The important is where we going, because time is limit. Like, I mean, as long as I live in this planet Earth, I want to continue what I can do. But my next step is I will open the Rock Family again in Spain. I will continue the organizing as a Uyghur. I want to help the world. For example, in Spain, we have 45 million people, and I check, and we have more than 100,000 young generation, like young bands. They're all 18, 17, and I'm going to do the same thing. I want to bring those people together. I want to give them opportunity to perform on the stage.
It's really exciting to talk to you, and I know you have all these big plans, and I trust you. I believe you can do all this because you have this motivation deep down. Is Your motivation is do good to people and bring them together, and the togetherness and the humanness of people coming together. And when great intentions and people who believe in same things comes together, things happens. And I do believe you can make things happen, and I hope you can make things happen. And I will be they're supporting you and coming back to you and talking to you about the progress of everything that you will do. And that's really exciting. I will be excited for your progress.
And I hope also, just like you, the other people, the other Uyghurs, that we should support each other. We should help each other. And if we found out something nice, we should be there and we should do it together.
Yes, Uyghur, we are together.
Exactly, because just like I said, our destination is the same. What we want is the same. As a Uyghur, what we want is the same. As a human being, what we want is the same. We want the whole world to be in peace, and we sharing the love and we enjoying the lifetime before we go to the other side.
See, the people are so busy. Money and the power drive them crazy. No matter what, life is beautiful in its own way. It is one love, the only magic that will stay. I wish the music keeps us dancing, then we can help all those crying. Wherever we go, there's only one destination. This is the way, with love we will go together. Another day in paradise is nothing without you. Stolen dreams come back to me. I feel like deja vu. Another day in paradise, nothing without you. Stolen dreams come back to me. I feel like deja vu, a deja vu, a deja vu, a deja vu, a deja vu, like a deja vu.
Back here in the studio with John and Mukaddas, we've just heard about the musician Hassan Mahmud, who founded the rock band Uyghur and is now living in the Uyghur diaspora in Spain.
Yes, John. Everyone's diaspora story is a little bit different, and everyone's experience in their adoptive countries is very different also, I guess. Some, like Hassan, are working to gain the kind of audience that they had back home. Others, like our next guest, have become far more famous in their new homes. Gulnigar Naman, she is an acrobat and performer living in Norway. I spoke to her recently, and since she does not speak English, and I do not speak Norwegian, of course, we conducted the conversation in Uyghur.
So, for our non Uyghur speaking audience, like me, we will play a translation of the conversation recorded in English.
Hello, Gulnigar.
Hello.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Mənim ismim Gulnigar Naman. 88-ci ili doğulğan Ürümçidə.
My name is Gulnigar Naman. I was born in Urumqi in 1988. My mother is a teacher and my father worked in the cultural museum in the region.
Wow, it's cool. How did you get into the circus school?
When I was 6 years old, Mijit Sawut, a family friend, was the director of the local circus, and he was the reason why I first went to the circus. I was a shy kid, and I didn't talk too much, and at school, I was really slow. So Mijit Sawut said to my dad, "You should bring your daughter to the circus just for a week, and then she will know how difficult it is and might go back to school with more motivation." So they brought me to the circus school, but they were not expecting that I'd fall in love with the circus and that is where my life would truly begin.
Wow.
So this was a professional school, and we had a very busy schedule from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. with 8 hours of training.
Oh.
Yes, and the first 2 years we worked on our body to make it more flexible, and we also needed to master the handstand, and that took us 2 years. And then we each had a specialty, so hula hoop, candle performance, tightrope, juggling, and the school split us up into these specializations. And after we got a discipline, we needed 3 or 4 more years of additional training before we could become professional circus artists.
So when you finish school, so after spending 4 years of training, and then what happened?
So after I worked for 6 years in the circus, we decided to create a brand new theatrical piece. So we all worked together to create this huge stage performance called Hello, Mr. Nesiruddin.
So, dear John, let me explain. Who's this Nasruddin?
Yes, tell me.
This figure of Nasruddin exists actually in different culture in Central Asia. Like, you can find it in Uyghur culture, you can find it in Uzbek culture, you can even find it in Turkish, like Turkey. Like there's this figure, this person called Nasruddin Hoja, who is a very controversial figure. He is like, what he does is he's always very critical of establishment, the religious figures, and also the authority. He's on the side of people, and his way of criticizing these authoritarian figures is always with humor, always with jokes, and he's always making fun of these very established and authoritarian figures.
It sort of reminds me of sort of like a court jester or a sort of fool kind of character that might exist in Western stories, like in Shakespeare, it might be sort of like Feste or Falstaff or someone like that. And so what is the significance then of Gulnigar and the other folks in the circus naming their show Hello, Mr. Nesiruddin?
I think they choose this story to tell for their show because they wanted to have a light and happy and kind of funnier figure for their show.
Cool. All right. So I understand the show they were making. So they're performing this show in Urumqi, right?
Yes, in Urumqi.
And I remember we performed almost 350 times during those years.
Wow.
In the same theater, more than 350 times.
More than 350 times? It's like a world record.
Yes. So we performed every day, sometimes 3 times a day. The theater was always full of people. They came from Urumqi, Turpan, Kumul, and other cities around the Uyghur region. And this show set records. It became super well known. And we also brought this show to other cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong.
So you got to travel a little bit with this show.
Yes.
Oh. So when did you first came to Norway?
I came to Norway in 2011. And after arriving in Norway, I started to teach at art schools as an assistant teacher and then as a teacher. I also started studying because it was impossible to not learn Norwegian. So I was a part-time teacher and a part-time student.
It must be difficult.
Yes, a lot of work.
Have both, yeah.
But one time we did a large-scale performance with an artist from the city where I lived. And it was in the biggest theater in town. And one of the producers of Norway's Got Talent was at the show that night. And she came to me after and said, Gulnigar, I loved what you do. I'm the producer of Norway's Got Talent. And if you like, I'll invite you to the show.
Wow.
So I said yes without thinking too much. I was still so new to this country. And so I went on the show.
Wow, what an experience. So what happened? How did you decide what to perform? What was your choices?
Well, the idea behind my performance on the talent show was to respond to the question that I had been asked when I first arrived in Europe, which was, who are you? Where are you from? And I'm always so sad by the reaction of people when I tell them that I'm Uyghur and, what is Uyghur? They would ask, what kind of people is that? Does that really exist? And, I've never heard of them.
I think that's really a tough situation to be in. I think every Uyghur is in the outside in the diaspora, they experience that kind of burden to not that people doesn't really know their existence. I went through the same situations when I first arrived in France.
Then I would say my home region is 5 times bigger than Norway. If you have 5 million people, we are 21 million. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it would make me so upset. How do you not know my homeland? It's so huge. So I thought being on the show was a chance to answer those kinds of questions. I wanted people to understand who I am, that I am an Uyghur, that this is a piece of my culture. That was my motivation. I was thinking that this might help me to introduce myself and my culture and my people. Yeah, so I created my performance by saying to myself, I am standing in front of the TV.
Mm-hmm.
I need to show people. I need to show my culture. My costumes must be made of etles. My music should be Uyghur traditional music. I must mix Uyghur traditional dance with my acrobatic performance.
Okay, can I just pause for a sec and ask about etles? What is that?
Atlas is the most well-known cloth, well-known fabric in Central Asia. Like how we call all these ancient trade roads as silk roads. So there were a lot of silks in these areas, in these regions, and then a lot of people were using atlas to do trade, and also there were like very beautiful patterns that they came up with and used in traditional clothing. So Uyghurs, like, it's a very typical Uyghur women wear. So a lot of dresses of Uyghur women, they're made in Atlas, and also it's not only for like specific for Uyghur region, but it's also used in Uzbekistan, and also I saw similar patterns even used in other parts of Asia as well.
So when she was going on Norway's Got Talent and wearing etlas and using traditional music, traditional instruments, she was really going for a sort of feel that was, this is traditional Uyghur culture. This is the culture I come from. You should know this culture. You should know who I am, kind of feel.
Yeah. I think she only, like, that was her that was her very instant, really important motivation for being on that stage, because she wanted for people to understand who she was, and then she wanted to share some parts of her culture. So when she was having this choice for which costume to wear on stage, she of course went on this very obvious choice of Atlas, because she wanted to, even with her clothing, she wants to tell the story of where she was from and who she was.
That's amazing. So how did she do on the show?
Well, I passed the first and second round, and at the third round, I was eliminated because I came in third place. But 4 of the judges gave me so much encouragement. They really liked my performance, and I was so moved by them. Even though I didn't understand much of what they were saying, when I came down from the stage, some people translated what they were saying to me, and I was just over the moon.
Wow, that must be a fantastic experience. Oh, so, and then what happened? You became well known. You became a star.
Well, after my TV appearances, many people reached out to me,
Oh,
privately on social media, and I received many messages from people saying, I know you, I know your story, you are Uyghur, and I was so surprised and happy that so many people knew who I was.
no, that's great. That's
Mhm.
really, that was what you wanted, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of my colleagues, after I came back to work, said, it was so good you asked the audience, if you don't know what Uyghur is, please Google it. And I was thinking that if I say that, people might get curious and search for more information. And my colleague told me I did the search and learned about your people, and I understand better now. And it was really good that you said that.
No, that's a brilliant idea, actually. Yeah, and yeah, for that, when you said that, it was not that widely used, but in our day, people would
Yeah.
ask, like Google Uyghurs, that became like you're the first one who's saying that. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So I I became quite well known in Norway, and I started to perform a lot more in different theaters.
Oh, so tell me about your recent projects. I know that you're working for different projects since many years, so I want to know more about them.
Okay, well, in February in 2019, I created a personal project, and this show was inspired by my own story. And the piece was called Gulnigar's Diary, and it's about how I started in the circus and how I became an artist. Um, and the first day of the performance, the day of the first performance, I was really afraid that there would be no one in the theater. I was concerned about whether people would actually see my show. So I made a bet with one of my collaborators, and I told her that I would be happy if 50 people showed up. And she bet that there would be more than 70 people. And the day of the performance, tickets were sold out online, and people were waiting for tickets at the front door of the theater. And there were people all over the first and second floor. They were even outside the theater. And I was just so touched.
Wow, yeah, that's great. I mean, so many people came there to see your show.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
couldn't believe
you're
it.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So that I've been working on expanding the storyline and adding more live elements. Before I used my sister's voice for the narration, but in this version, I'll be talking on stage, and we think it will be easier for kids to understand. Um, so in the show, I'll talk and perform at the same time, and there will be, different settings during the performance. And
So so you're doing like all everything by
yes.
yourself, like talking, performing, and yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's challenging.
It is, it is. But yeah, so the story of the theatrical piece is Gulnigar became a little tornado and came to Norway.
That's
And
an interesting storyline.
yes. And if I have the chance to share what I have within me and, share a beautiful moment with them, then that's what's the most important to me.
Yeah, I agree. That's the most important time to share with your audience things that you went through and how you express yourself. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So you are using your art to educate people as well.
Yeah, I hope I can use my art to let people know about the Uyghur arts and Uyghur culture, and I want to bring it to more people. I want to let them know who we are. I know it's hard, but I really hope to do that.
No, thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
Thank you. I'm so encouraged by our conversation.
Rahmet, çoxum
Yeah.
tirişmən. Siz bilə paylaşıb bolğan ki, təxim xoş buldum.
See you soon. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
This is John. I'm back here in the studio with Mukaddas, and today we've been talking about feeling in between and how artists in the Uyghur diaspora experience this feeling in a variety of ways in their lives and in their work. We've heard from two incredible artists, Hassan Mahmud, a contemporary musician living in Spain, and Gulnigar Naman, who is an acrobat who lives in Norway. But there is another amazing Uyghur artist in the diaspora with a fascinating view, both of contemporary art world and the lived daily reality of the Uyghur people. And that is you, Mukaddas.
Thank you.
You are an artist, an academic, an activist. You are a member of the Uyghur Diaspora. You're, a podcast host. You're doing it all. And so I was just curious, what about hearing Hassan and Gulnigar's stories? What about that resonated with you? And are their experiences similar to your experience in any way?
Yeah, I think when I was talking to them, I was really feeling the same thing, and at the same time feeling like, oh, actually I'm not alone. And also they time to time they expressed that they felt a little bit loneliness also being artists outside of the homeland and being in these places of in-betweenness, and also feeling like they want to create something which derived from the Uyghur traditional culture, but at the same time they wanted to have their own voice. So that kind of feeling I have been feeling for many years, actually. I feel like, yes, I was trained and raised and did some research about Uyghur traditional arts, but at the same time, I feel like as a human being and also as an artist, I have like things that I want to express and I want to say, and it's not being not faithful to my own tradition, but at the same time, it's trying to feel confident enough and feel armed enough to, like to experience new ways of expressing and new ways of making art. So that kind of feeling I recognize immediately in Hassan's work, and also when he was talking about all this influences that he came across, and then all these people that he met, and then all this music that he created by being in touch with others, like not only just with himself, his culture, his own tradition, but also by being in touch with others. And Gulnigar's story is also the same, because she came to Europe and then she spent times, she had these amazing experiences with this talent show, and she met so many people, and then she worked with kids. She did so many touring in Norway. So in a sense, she's constantly in touch with others, like constantly in touch with other culture and constantly in touch with her environment, and that affected a lot her way of making art and her way of expressing herself. So in that sense, I feel really close to these artists as well.
So when you're thinking about feeling in between, it sounds like that you can sort of go back and forth, you and these other people we've heard from today, of feeling sort of alone in your pursuit. Like feeling in between means you're partially in one place and partially in another, but not fully in either. And so I would imagine that can feel like sort of a lonely place, but you're also saying that connecting with these artists or other people where you live is a way to sort of not only further your own work and sort of deepen your own ideas as an artist, but to have that sense of community.
Actually, being in between is not a negative thing. I think it's a very important experience. And I think it's a very natural state of mind, or as a human being, I think. I don't believe that you belong to just one place or one kind of state of mind. You're constantly navigating in different world, in different spaces, and being in between, and really admitting that, to say to yourself, yes, I'm in between all these different things, all these different cultures, and all these different spaces, but I know that I get this world, and I get this being in betweenness, and then I can, like, that gives you a kind of confident and also a kind of way of understanding better this world, better humanity, and also to navigate through this complicated, but yet so natural and so banal in betweenness, which is in everyone, I guess.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me hearing both Gulnigar and Hassan's stories were their sort of reflections on representing Uyghurness to the people around them in their adoptive countries. And, you know, I'm sure that's a very complicated feeling for anyone in a diaspora population. But it also felt to me like Gulnigar and Hassan approached it a little bit differently. Hassan felt like he didn't necessarily want to be seen as the Uyghur person. You know, he is a Uyghur. He's proud to be Uyghur. But he doesn't want to just be seen as a Uyghur musician in his contemporary work. And Gulnigar also, very proudly Uyghur, but very much wanted to use the platform of Norway's Got Talent to say, this is Uyghur culture, and really representing that to a different community, to the Norwegian community. And so I'm curious what your feelings are about that. Do you often get asked as an artist or as an academic to represent Uyghur culture, to sort of be the Uyghur voice in the room? And how does that make you feel? And how does it change the way you think about the tradition that you come from?
It's a really great question. And I think my way of, like, I can say that I had both kinds of experience. Like, when I just arrived in France and I wanted to be that person to represent Uyghur culture. I wanted for people to understand who I was and my culture. Like, I think the first thing I should say, like, my way of letting people understand who I was as a person is to show them first my culture. Like, who are the Uyghurs and where are them and what is their culture? So that was always been like my motivation to encounter with people, to first show my culture. And by doing that, I naturally became this Uyghur person, this Uyghur artist who represent Uyghur art. But gradually I understood, like, actually it was not the right way to do it. And at least from my point of view, and my way of living my culture and my way of creating around my culture changed and shifted drastically over the years, because I understood, like, more I did research, more I learned about my culture, I understood that it was impossible for one person to like represent an entire culture. So I became like more and more modest, and I understood, like, my way of understanding Uyghur culture before doing any research about that is my personal way of understanding it and my personal way of practicing my Uyghurness, right? And I understood that actually, if we say, like, there's 21 million of Uyghurs, there's 21 million different ways of understanding Uyghur culture and practicing it. So, and then I understood, like, yes, okay, so as an artist, what should I do in the world? Like, what is my mission and where I should stand? And then I saw, actually, like, representing something is not really like something that I want to do as an artist. I want to create something, but with all the background, with all the knowledge that I learned from my culture, from, like, things that my ancestors transmitted to me and passed on to me generation after generation. So I'm very confident on who I am, and I'm very confident on my understanding of Uyghur culture. And now as an artist, my mission, as I'm understanding it now, is to really find my voice. So by doing that, I mean, which will bring down, which will bring my culture to a human level. So it's really much more effective and much more important and much more, it's a much more larger way to communicate Uyghur culture, actually, if I can tell it from a personal perspective. So that's where I am at now. So when I do whenever I create or whatever work I do, I want to share with other people, other artists, with the audience, what is Uyghur means to me from a really, really personal perspective, personal point of view. So people can really understand me, and by understanding me as a person, as an artist, they will eventually step into a huge world of what is Uyghur culture, which is really complex and large.
That's incredible. So it sounds like you feel like you've almost sort of liberated yourself from feeling like you have to represent Uyghurness or Uyghur culture, and that in liberating yourself, you have actually empowered yourself to do it, right? I mean, like you're saying, there's as many ways to be Uyghur as there are people who are Uyghur, and so by saying I don't have to represent all of them, I don't have to, just adhere to the tradition. I don't like the idea of what is Uyghur culture, Uyghur music, dance, whatever, is not one fixed idea. It is not just one way of being or doing or creating that comes from the past. It can be new, it can be contemporary, it can be vibrant, and that's what you've set out to do, and that's what you are doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's also, I mean, to be honest, that's the only, I cannot do more than that.
That's a lot to do.
Yes.
For everyone listening, there is more information about the stories that you heard on today's episode, more information about Hassan and Gulnigar on our website, which is Uyghurstories.com. So we would encourage you to go there and learn more about people and the stories that you've heard today.
Thank you, John. And I'm really happy that I get to share these stories with you, and the world get to know these amazing artists and what they're doing. And I hope that can be also a kind of help for them to get more visibility and more people and look into their work. I hope. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing these stories with me today.
Thank you for listening. Uyghur Stories is hosted by Mukaddas and John Bear. It is produced by The New While. Our audio engineer is Hashad. Our theme music was also composed by Hashad. Uyghur Stories is made possible with the support from the US Embassy in Paris. For more information, please visit us online at www.uyghurstories.com. That is www.weghurstories.com. Of course, you can find us on Instagram at Uyghur Stories.